Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the film John Wick. Is the kind of B action movie that I always hope for when I see a B action movie that opens in the multiplex. Most B action films that have come out at the multiplex haven't been able to reach the level that what's going on video on demand. There's not many directors that can do the kind of inventiveness that's going on there, or what I've seen from a lot of action films this year. With John Wick, I get what you really want from most of these B action movies and what you expect, which is direction by a trusty genre action director, or really two genre action directors, Chad Stahelski and David Leitch. On most of them, it's going to say Chad's name just as the director because of DGA and PGA regulations or something. But supposedly, if you were on set, the two of them directed it, which is kind of like a Coen Brothers thing, but for a violent action movie. This is their first movie, but it shows two directors who know how to make a streamlined action film, almost one that doesn't escape from its genre, but also is world building in a way that I haven't seen an action film especially do as well as this one does in a long time. And one that has a weird comic booky world where assassins can meet up in a special hotel and trade gold coins and know all this secret lingo and know each other, and there are multiple characters and you can tell there's a whole universe at play here, which they don't entirely get into, but it definitely feels like a comic book in a lot of ways, but a more natural style, not as heavy as someone like Christopher Nolan would do, but not in a way that lets go of the comic booky fun of it as well. The best thing about it is its real genre is a revenge action film, and the whole going after people for revenge kind of action films really started, and the kind of film this is based on is with like Death Wish, even though it's been going on forever, but Death Wish is kind of the model for a lot of it. Death Wish and another film called Thriller, They Call Her One Eye, take a while to get to the point where the main character is finally going and kicking ass and destroying things. And these guys don't spend too much time building the character and doing the stuff that you know you need to build a nice narrative and all that, but you really just want to get to the awesome action sequences. It kind of reminded me of something like Miss 45, in that Miss 45 gets to the point pretty early, and so you get a really entertaining film. I think John Wick does that as well. It does have, I don't know how long really, but it wasn't like half the runtime was him like having an existential crisis because he's not sure if he should go back to being a hitman and go on a senseless, bloody rampage of revenge. John Wick, who's played by Keanu Reeves, has recently lost his wife, who he left the hitman game for 5 years ago, but she has died of an illness. They don't really get into what it was, but they have a clip of her falling down and then she's in the hospital, so, and apparently she suffered from it for a long time. It's really, they don't really get into that. They kind of have broad strokes about a lot of things. They'll be like, oh, it was an illness, or, you know, that thing, and then they just don't get into it. I kind of like in some ways that it's like that simplistic on some things, and it's just like, this is really all you need for this narrative, so we're moving on. She dies of an illness at the beginning of the film, and then after the funeral, delivery service shows up with a dog that she ordered for him to get over the grief. She ordered him this dog before she died, and the dog shows up and it's a cute little puppy and he loves this puppy. And then after the first day he has it, he drives with the puppy to get his fancy, expensive, really nice car filled up with gas, and these Russian mobsters see it and really want the car and want to buy it from him, and he says no. And then they come break into his house, kill the dog, and steal the car. And when they try to sell the car to John Leguizamo's character, he immediately recognizes the car because I guess it's like really distinctive, but John Leguizamo immediately tells them they're idiots because John Wick will come after them and come after them hard. That Russian mobster's father, Vigo, used to be John Wick's employer, and John Wick is the reason they have this high status as these big Russian mobsters in New York. They never really get into what he did to do that so he could be freed of the hitman lifestyle, but he did something pretty awful. And so now he's on revenge looking for Vigo and his son, who killed his dog, the last thing he got from his wife, and stole his car, and is on revenge to destroy them all, and goes through and kills many, many people on his quest to do so. Keanu Reeves has never really been known for his acting. It was a really big joke in the 90s, and I think I've grown up through most of his career knowing him as kind of a bad actor. In John Wick, he's almost like knowingly doing Keanu Reeves. A lot of directors do that later in their career. They'll knowingly direct a film, like David Fincher's kind of in that right now, and Alfred Hitchcock went through that, and Spielberg's done it, where they'll knowingly direct a film where it looks like it's made by them. Obviously, when you're a director, it's going to be made by you, but they're kind of doing it in their own style. And it feels like Keanu Reeves is doing that with his acting in a way that I don't think I've seen any of these other aging action stars who come back do, really. They're never that self-aware about using their performance in the way Keanu is. It's very tongue-in-cheek the way he does it, and you could almost mistake it for an average Keanu performance. I felt like he had a lot more charisma and was a lot more sure of himself than he felt during his 90s heyday. I think there's a difference between when you see action movies where there's tons of cutting and the camera's moving to cover an actor who clearly can't do the choreography correctly or make it look that interesting. So you get kind of an action sequence that's all over the place and the camera's moving constantly, but you don't really know exactly what happened, but you see the bad guys are on the floor. John Wick's not really like that. It's directed by two guys who have been stunt doubles and done second unit on a lot of action movies and really know how to do an action sequence. And I think there's a difference. It kind of reminds me of what someone like Isaac Florentine did with Ninja Shadow of a Tear, where he's someone who knows martial arts and so he knows how to film a sequence. And that makes a really big difference. And you can tell that in something like John Wick. Keanu clearly knows how to move and has a real physical nature about being in an action movie. There's certain more thrillingness to it, and you really get that someone's a badass when you see him move and shoot these guys so quickly. You kind of go, okay, I get that he was this great hitman. You don't need to really over-explain it to me because you can just show it to me in that way. It kind of shows you what's really been going on, I think, with a lot of action movies is after the shaky cam thing and the whole Bourne thing has been dying down, we're kind of going more back to stuff like this, where you have these actors who really have to show it to you, and I think Keanu continues that. It's done by genre directors who know how to make a good genre film, and it's kind of comic book nature makes it almost an exceptional genre film because they have all these people like Adrena Patrick and Willem Dafoe playing hitmen in this whole big world of hitmen, and it has this whole universe and logic to it and rules to this world, which is really interesting. It does feel like a very trusted genre film. Like, you know exactly what you're getting and it gives it to you. It does feel very much like a first feature, but a first feature by people who really know the genre and aren't going to do wrong by it. They really want to make exactly the right kind of genre film. It's interesting a lot of times when there's backstory stuff that they go like, oh, his wife died of an illness. Oh, you know, the Russian mobster got this way because of something Keanu did. We're not going to get into that. Let's just go over it and get right to it. And I think they get what makes an action revenge film work the best. You don't really care so much about Liam Neeson getting his daughter a birthday present. You really want to see Liam Neeson attack people. I know that's a more recent example. I'm not a huge fan of the Taken films, especially in revenge stuff. But if you look at a film like Miss 45, to me is one of my favorite action revenge films. And I think when I think of Miss 45, it's just that it cuts to the chase really early and does those scenes in a really audience-friendly action kind of way. And John Wick does that very well. I almost feel the one thing that hurts John Wick is I have something that's such an amazingly great genre film like The Guest that just came out. And maybe I shouldn't compare John Wick to The Guest because they're both such great action genre films, and I haven't seen two great action genre films so close together in a long time. John Wick kind of reminded me why I like those, why I ended up seeing way too many stupid Jason Statham movies that weren't really ended up being worth very much at all. And John Wick is what I always hoped they would be. It's the kind of action genre film that makes you go, oh, this is why I see stupid B action films that, like, you know, only me and a bunch of old guys are in the theater for, because they're fun, because I like seeing that physicality and watching guys get gunshots directly to the head. These guys, they're very trusted genre directors. It does break from that genre a bit, but it's so in that genre it doesn't really exceed from it. Whereas something like The Guest definitely, I almost feel like, does, because it's so exuberant in what it's doing with that genre. John Wick is just in that genre, but it's almost like fine being confined in that. It knows how to make that really work for it in a way that I really want those action movies to be. I guess really my complaint while watching it is that I saw a movie that was way too good for a genre, and now I'm getting still a really good movie for a genre, but it's not as good as the exceptionally good action movie, which is a silly thing to say. But as what John Wick is, it's extremely good at and won't disappoint you the way, you know, like something like Home Battlefront did. This is going to give you that stupid action B genre film that you want, and you want to see Keanu Reeves like kill 3 guys at once and with a lot of headshots. It's like, wow, this is the kind of thing that makes me like fall in love with an aging action star returning to the genre that made them famous. And I think he actually kind of did it better than a lot of the people like, you know, Schwarzenegger or Stallone, because he made a really trusty action genre film, and one that I would actually welcomely watch again. John Wick lives up to the B action genre reputation that these directors are really striving for. So if you have seen John Wick and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.